History is written by the victors, but hidden between the lines are truths they don't want you to know. For centuries, governments and powerful empires have concealed facts that could change how we see the world. Today, we bring you 33 inconvenient historical truths, facts that were buried, denied, or rewritten. Brace yourself as we dive into dark corners of history that many prefer to hush up. 1. The U.S. government secretly exposed unwitting citizens to harmful radiation during Cold War experiments. During the tense years of the Cold War, the U.S. government conducted secret experiments to understand the effects of nuclear radiation. Shockingly, many civilians, often without their knowledge or consent, were exposed to dangerous levels of radiation. These experiments included irradiating hospital patients, soldiers, and even pregnant women. The goal was to study radiation's impact on the human body, but the ethical cost was enormous. It involved staging terrorist attacks on American soil, such as bombings, hijackings, and shootings, then blaming them on Cuba. The idea was to rally public and international support for invading Cuba. Thousands of unsuspecting commuters were exposed without their knowledge. Though considered non-lethal, this bacteria later caused infections in hospital patients, including at least one death linked to the test. The public was kept in the dark for decades about this covert biological warfare experiment. These experiments included infecting people with deadly diseases, live dissections without anesthesia, and testing weapons on humans. Thousands died under brutal conditions, but much of the information was concealed after the war, as the U.S. granted immunity to involved scientists in exchange for their research data. Fortunately, President John F. Kennedy rejected the plan, but its existence reveals how far some leaders were willing to go to justify war. Victims suffered from cancers, birth defects, and chronic illnesses. To extract rubber and ivory, the regime enforced forced labor, punishments, and atrocities on the native population. The brutal exploitation, including mutilations and killings, caused a demographic collapse. Over 1.5 million Armenians died, but Turkey, the successor state, officially denies the genocide. This denial remains a sensitive and controversial topic in international relations. Coupled with forced removals like the Trail of Tears, massacres, and broken treaties, these policies led to a catastrophic decline in indigenous populations and cultures. International outrage eventually forced Belgium to take control, but the scars remained deep. Food was diverted to support the military, and export continued despite shortages. The British administration's failure to act decisively caused widespread starvation and death of millions, a tragedy that remains a dark legacy of colonial rule. This dark chapter remained hidden from public view for decades, only coming to light through investigative journalism and declassified documents. Many European banks, trading companies, and plantations amassed wealth directly from this trade, which laid foundations for modern capitalism. These programs were justified by flawed science and racism, and continued even after the horrors of Nazi eugenics became known. The legacy of slavery impacts social and economic disparities to this day. 2. Project MKUltra used LSD and mind control techniques on American and Canadian citizens without their consent. These governments often committed widespread human rights abuses, but were tolerated or supported as bulwarks against communism. Between the 1950s and 1970s, the CIA ran a secret program called MKUltra, aiming to develop mind control methods during the Cold War. MLK was targeted with wiretaps, smear campaigns, and attempts to provoke scandal, aiming to undermine the movement for racial equality. Later evidence showed the incidents were either exaggerated or never occurred, revealing manipulation by the government. This historical fact has prompted ongoing debates about reparations and institutional accountability. The agency dosed innocent people with LSD, sometimes without their knowledge, to test the effects of drugs on the mind and behavior. Subjects experienced terrifying hallucinations, memory loss, and lasting psychological trauma. Many never gave consent, and some even died. These men, infected with syphilis, were deliberately denied treatment even after penicillin became a known cure, in order to study the natural progression of the disease. Despite warnings and evidence, the international community largely failed to intervene, sparking ongoing criticism of global responsibility. This violation of civil rights was later formally apologized for, but left deep scars. The participants were misled to believe they were receiving free health care. This controversial program prioritized Cold War competition over justice. The study caused immense suffering, deaths, and spread of the disease to families. The event was omitted from history books for generations. When exposed, it sparked outrage and led to stricter ethical standards in medical research. The program was revealed in the 1970s during Senate hearings, exposing the terrifying extent of government overreach in the name of national security. 3. The Tuskegee syphilis study let black men suffer untreated syphilis for decades just to observe disease progression. From 1932 to 1972, the U.S. Public Health Service conducted a cruel experiment on nearly 400 African American men in Tuskegee, Alabama. 4. Operation Northwoods was a plan by U.S. military leaders to stage fake attacks on Americans to justify war with Cuba. In 1962, during rising tensions with Cuba, U.S. military leaders proposed a shocking plan called Operation Northwoods. 5. The CIA tested biological weapons in New York City's subway system in the 1950s. In a secret 1950 experiment, the CIA released harmless bacteria Serratia marcescens into the New York City subway system to study how biological agents might spread in urban areas. 6. Unit 731, a secret Japanese World War II unit, performed deadly human experiments on Chinese civilians, including vivisections. During World War II, Japan's Unit 731 conducted horrific biological and chemical experiments on Chinese civilians and prisoners of war. 7. British colonial forces caused a devastating famine in Bengal in 1943, killing over 3 million people. The Bengal famine of 1943 is often attributed to natural causes, but British wartime policies and mismanagement played a major role. 8. King Leopold II of Belgium's brutal exploitation of the Congo Free State led to the deaths of over 10 million Congolese. King Leopold II claimed the Congo as his personal property in the late 19th century. 9. The Armenian genocide of 1915 killed more than 1 million people, but is still denied by some governments today. During World War I, the Ottoman Empire systematically exterminated Armenians through massacres, forced marches, and starvation. 10. Native American populations were decimated by deliberate policies, including forced relocations and biological warfare. European colonization brought diseases like smallpox, but also intentional biological warfare tactics, such as distributing infected blankets to Native Americans. 11. The Atlantic slave trade lasted over 400 years, enriching many Western institutions and banks directly involved. Between the 16th and 19th centuries, millions of Africans were enslaved and transported to the Americas under brutal conditions. 12. Many prestigious American universities were founded or funded by profits made from slavery. Institutions like Harvard, Yale, and Georgetown received donations from slave owners or profited indirectly from slavery-related industries. 13. The U.S. government secretly sterilized thousands under eugenics programs well into the 1970s. Influenced by eugenic theories, the U.S. conducted forced sterilizations targeting marginalized groups, including people of color, the disabled, and the poor. 14. The CIA covertly supported brutal dictatorships in Latin America to protect corporate and geopolitical interests. During the Cold War, the CIA backed coups and supported regimes in countries like Chile, Guatemala, and Argentina. 15. The FBI conducted illegal surveillance and harassment of civil rights leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. to silence dissent. Under COINTELPRO, the FBI surveilled, discredited, and attempted to destabilize civil rights activists. 16. The Gulf of Tonkin incident, used to justify escalation in the Vietnam War, was exaggerated and manipulated. In 1964, alleged attacks on U.S. naval vessels by North Vietnam were used to pass the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, escalating American involvement in Vietnam. 17. Operation Paperclip brought Nazi scientists to the U.S., hiding their war crimes to boost American technological advances. After World War II, the U.S. secretly recruited former Nazi scientists and engineers, some implicated in war crimes, to work on space and weapons programs. 18. The 1994 Rwandan genocide was ignored by many world powers for months, allowing mass slaughter to continue. Over 800,000 Tutsis and moderate Hutus were killed in just 100 days. 19. Japanese Americans were forcibly interned in camps during World War II, losing homes and livelihoods without cause. Following the attack on Pearl Harbor, the U.S. government ordered the relocation and incarceration of over 120,000 Japanese Americans, most U.S. citizens. 20. The Tuskegee syphilis study continued for 40 years before being exposed and ended in 1972. Despite effective treatment availability, this unethical study continued for decades, highlighting systemic racism in healthcare and prompting reforms in research ethics. 21. The Tulsa Race Massacre of 1921 destroyed a prosperous black community and was covered up for decades. In one of the worst episodes of racial violence in U.S. history, a white mob destroyed Tulsa's Greenwood District, also known as Black Wall Street, killing hundreds and burning homes and businesses. 22. The U.S. supported coups and regime changes in Iran, Guatemala, and Chile to serve economic interests. These covert operations overthrew democratically elected leaders to install regimes friendly to American corporate and strategic goals, often leading to decades of repression. These 22 facts remind us that history is complex, often hidden beneath layers of power and propaganda. Knowing these inconvenient truths is crucial to learn, to understand, and to build a better future. If you found this video eye-opening, please like, share, and subscribe. Let's keep questioning and seeking truth together.